In the post-Nick Saban era, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs will kick things off, followed by the Tennessee Volunteers, the Oklahoma Sooners, and the Missouri Tigers. Now, Georgia is the 2-1 favorite to win the SEC title. The Bulldogs have been to 6 of the last 7 SEC championship games, but have only won 2. SEC newcomer Texas is plus 325, while defending champion Alabama is 8-1. Here's Nick Saban with a hot take on Texas's chances in the SEC.
You know what kind of tickles me is all these people asking these questions about how Texas always ran the conference they were in. They're not going to run the SEC. There's a whole lot of arrogant people in a lot of places in the SEC, so they can forget all about that.
Okay, Paul, I'm going to start with you on this one. Do you think that Texas will run the SEC?
No, I don't, but a reminder to Coach Saban, Texas did beat his team last year by double digits in Tuscaloosa, and I think that gave them the energy and the impetus which led them to the college football playoffs. But Texas is not going to rule the SEC. I believe Georgia has a really good chance of doing that, but they are going to make a significant impact. Texas likes to think the world revolves around them, but in this case, they are one of many. But they start the SEC, Christina, as probably the number 2 team when the voting ends here this week. That's not bad, because a couple of years ago, 3 years ago to be exact, when the word came out that Texas and OU were entering the SEC, that program was in a lot of trouble. Today, it's in fantastic shape under Steve Sarkisian.
And here's why it's in fantastic shape. It's because he's had 3 straight top 5 recruiting classes. He has more depth now than he's ever had. This spring, when Texas went out to practice, sometimes teams will have 11 on 11, right? He had his 1s versus 2s. He had his 3s versus 4s. 2 full, basically, scrimmages going on, because that's where the depth is at, and that's what you need to possibly play 17 games and win a national title. So here's what will happen. October 19th, Texas will beat Georgia in Austin, and then in the SEC championship game, they're going to lose to Georgia. They might play again, though, in the CFP if the seeding works out right, but I'm telling you right now, Texas is a team that can contend for the national title.
Listen, this is the deep end of the pool for Texas. Let's be honest. There's no TCUs in this SEC. They'll be good. I don't completely trust them. I never have. Last year, they were outplayed badly by Washington in the bowl game. They lost to Oklahoma, which was, listen, they lost to the Sooners. They'll be good, and he's a good coach, and they have good offense, and he's a good play caller and everything else. But to walk through that gauntlet unscathed is asking an awful lot. I do not make them the second team there. I think there'll be a little adjustment on a week-to-week basis. That Texas A&M game, which I believe is at Texas A&M, will be a war at the end of the year. Now, they get an advantage because obviously with all these teams making the playoffs, you're going to have a chance to lose 3 games and still get in. Last year they lost to 1. They got to the Final 4. This year they probably can lose 2 extras and still make it. But until this new seal for these 2 schools, it's going to take a year of an adjustment, playing all these tough road games. I'm still going to think that Alabama, DeBoer is a good coach. The quarterback's good. Got to a Final 4 last year. Should have beaten Michigan. I still think Alabama and Georgia are the cream of the crop in the conference.
Dougie, I don't know where you were on the national semifinal game on January 1st, but Texas had a short pass, I think, Heather, to win the game. I mean, what game were you watching? Washington was fantastic. Michael Penix, Kalen DeBoer was coaching that team. Texas should have won the game. They made sloppy mistakes. They had enormous talent. And they're not playing the TCUs anymore, but they've already shown that. They opened the season, I think, second week of the season at Michigan. They're going to win that game at Ann Arbor. They're going to win a lot of games because they have the depth, as Heather said. So again, I realize you live in New York and only certain football games filter in on your cable system, but you clearly missed that game.
Well, I'll tell you, Washington killed Texas. Penix threw for 400 yards, touchdown passes all over the place, and they got a little careless late in the game where they would have won by double digits. So let's be fair there. And Paul, you know better than anybody, Texas is sloppy. They got all this talent. They're very sloppy. They took advantage of Alabama earlier in the year. and then they let Gabriel beat him in the Oklahoma game up and down the field. I got to see a little bit more from Texas on a consistent basis to think all of a sudden they're right there with Georgia in the SEC. I don't buy it myself. Not yet. They're a good team, but I don't buy it.
Well, I think it's fair. You make some valid points, but I don't think Texas needs a transition year. This is Steve Sarkisian, who has coached in the SEC, who has built an SEC roster on the offensive and defensive lines, who's made use of the transfer portal. This is a team that has learned to rebuild just like Nick Saban learned to rebuild in terms of losing guys to the NFL draft, a whole big lot of them, and bringing in more players who can fill those roles and do it immediately. And the one thing Sark told me this spring was that they have not sacrificed talent for character. So there's also a sense within the team of being a team, which at some places, when you've got 51 players leaving, cough, cough, Colorado, is hard to find. And I think Sark, after 3 years, has got them to where they need to be.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Texas, again, I think the key word is sloppy. To me, they got a little underachieving label. Let me see them on a week-to-week basis get through that conference. They got a chance because they got plenty of talent, got quarterback play, and he's a good play caller. Let me see it.
All right, ESPN's analytics gives Texas a 24% chance to win the SEC championship, which is second to Georgia at 33%.